Hey guys, this is Echo Soundworks with another tutorial for ADSRsounds.com. First, if you're not subscribed to this YouTube channel, please sign up at youtube.com/ADSRtuts, that's T-U-T-S. So today's video is actually going to be more of a mix tip and trick. We're going to be looking at 4 different ways that you can tune a kick drum. I want to show you every way I personally know how to tune a kick drum into one condensed video, so it should hit everyone's preferred method or workflow. All right, so I have a sample already loaded up into my DAW. There it is. It is a kick sample. So the first way, which isn't really tuning kicks, I'm just going to briefly talk about this. If you guys are EDM producers and you like having kicks that are in perfect tune with your track, there is a couple plugins now on the market that are basically synthesizers that will create kicks. I like using Sonic Academy Kick. There is another one that I'm blanking on the name, but it does similar things. So for instance, you can just tune your kick in this little grid area right here. So for main room, you can hear how that's going to be really useful. Our big room where you need to have that big tune kick, because you can actually see, what elements of the kick are being tuned. Here's your attack or your click, the body, and the sub. So I can tune the sub to all be like an F sharp. Here we go, it's F sharp. I can tune the body to be an F sharp, and now this kick's gonna be an F sharp, right? I just know I don't even have to check. So there are the first way, just using a synthesizer so you know what the pitch is before you even have to think about tuning it. All right, now the second way, for those of you who do not have a plugin that does like a kick, type synthesis, is you're gonna be using a sample. So I have this sample pulled up, and we need to determine the pitch of the sample before we can do anything. So there is a free plugin from a company named Voxengo. It is called Span. And here is the webpage, www.voxengo.com, products/Span. You can see that right there. And it's just under the free products, and you can download it. You don't have to create an account. But what it does is it allows you to see, it's just a visualizing or an analyzing plugin. It allows you to see what's going on with this kick and pitch. So if I arrow over any part of this grid, you'll see down here, look down here, it'll say the frequency. Well, now it's up there. Well, now look at the bottom. It changes when you arrow up and down. So I'll keep it on the bottom. So look at the bottom left. It'll say in hertz what frequency I'm at, 112. And it'll say now A2, right? And it'll say how many cents off of A2 I actually am. So it's out of tune. It tells you those sort of things as well. So if I play my kick, I can now see what's going on. It helps to have this in high resolution mode as opposed to default, because the waveform peaks a little bit better so you can see the actual main transient of the kick. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to hit play and then hit hold. And then at this peak amplitude, this is a G-sharp 1. If you look at the bottom of my screen, kind of near the leftish center, you'll see where it says G-sharp 1, -24 cents. So my kick is near G-sharp 1. All right, well, that's really helpful, because now for our second method of tuning a kick, you can just drop your kick sample into a sampler like Battery, Kontakt, the stock sampler in Logic, EXS24, or whatever comes with Ableton, whatever it may be. So right now, I just dropped it into Battery. Right? There's the kick in Battery. Here's the kick sample. Same exact thing. Well, now what you can just do, let's say I need to get this from a G sharp to, we'll do a F sharp. I'll just down tune this -2 semitones. Now if I pull up Span while I'm doing this and play my kick in Battery, there it is, F sharp 1. It's that easy. I'll show you really quickly how to do that in Kontakt if any of you guys are Kontakt users and you would like to know. So you can go to File, go to New Instrument, click on this adorable little wrench, click on Mapping Editor, and then same thing. You're going to drag your sample in. I will drag this onto the sample that it actually is, which is a G sharp. So let me try finding that on my, I have a really small keyboard right here. Let's find, where are we at? G sharp is right here. All right, so if I wanted to play, let's say I wanted to play a C above that, there it is. It's doing time stretching. It's sample manipulation that samplers use to time stretch to pitch things up or down. And it's a pretty effective way to make sure your kick's in tune. All you have to do is know what the tune of the kick is before you start. All right, third way that you can do this is you can actually manipulate the sample using an equalizer. So I've already pulled up an equalizer. It is FabFilter's Pro Q2, and it looks like this. I like using this as opposed to the stock EQ in Logic for tuning kicks, just because I can create as many little, I can create as many cuts or places to cut, boost. I have more control over this, where as in Logic, it's a little more limiting. So let's go to the default setting. And what I'm going to do is I need to now look at my kick as two separate elements, which is why I have a kick track called sub right here, which is just my full kick right now. I'm going to turn this sample into just the sub frequency, and then I'm going to blend it back in with what I turn into just the body. So you need two of the exact same tracks duplicated, and one's going to be the sub, one's going to be the body. So to turn this into the sub, I need to cut all of the high frequencies doing a high cut. So it looks like this, right? And if we pull up span again, and I want to make sure span's happening after my equalization, just to make sure that it's a very accurate representation of pitch. If I pull up span, we're still at a G-sharp 1. All I did was take off all of that high-end frequency that you heard in the sample, so it doesn't affect your low end. Now, the reason we're tuning kicks, in case if you guys don't know, for any of you who don't, is it's just to tame the low frequency. The high-end frequency doesn't matter as much. You don't want your low end of your sub and your kick conflicting with your bass or some of your other leads that might have some low-end frequencies, because it makes your whole low-end section of the mix not punchy, and it loses clarity. And that's when you start to hear terms like, when people dissect mixes, oh, it sounds muddy. It's because the low end is muddy. All right, so I took off all the high end, and now what I'm going to do is I just need to aggressively cut or boost certain frequencies to change the overall pitch of this sound. So I'm going to try to change this to a G1. So just go down one semitone here, and I'm going to cut down here a little bit and make some different edits. All right, so let's try this. So I kept the high cut, I did a little low cut, and even boosted some, or cut this little purple section out. Let's see what we got here. And a lot of this is totally guess and check, unless you're a wizard. All right, so there it is. It's a G1 now. So you can see that our sub frequency is now a G1. So let's look at how now we can bring back in the high frequency element to the kick. Well, we're just going to do the exact opposite. I'm going to do a low cut and cut off all my low frequency to about there. And there you have it. There's your kick again. But now it's tuned. If I we can put span on the master bus and see what we got going on. All right, it's a G1. So we tuned the sub frequency, and it's not too hard to do. With certain samples, it can be more of a time-consuming process. So that's the third method. You're going to use an equalizer. You're going to separate your kick into two separate tracks. One's going to function as the sub. One's going to function as the body. You can actually get crazy with it and separate it into three. Have one be the attack phase or the tick, one be the body, and one be the sub. And you can even tune the body if you like, which is kind of becomes the middle high frequency of the kick. Same idea applies. You're just cutting and boosting EQ and blending it all back together. All right, so the fourth method that I want to talk about real quick is I feel like it's actually kind of a taboo method, because I've seen some forums and some videos, and people generally bash this method, and it works for me, and it works in Logic. I can't speak for other DAWs, but let's check this out. If you go to your pitch menu and load up the pitch shifter, you can change pitch of things with this, and if you've ever dinked around with this, you may have gotten some unusable results. Well, if you choose drums, turn your mix all the way up to 100. We'll turn this down to 0 for now. And click this little arrow here, and now change the settings from preset to pitch tracking, delay down to 2 milliseconds, and then you don't have to mess with the crossfade or anything. Sometimes I'll just change it to 0 just in case. And now let's listen to this. So the first time I play it will usually be weird, but then after I keep playing it, it is right. So I'll just usually bounce this in place. But let's tune this down to we'll do -2 semitones. So we're at a G-sharp 1. Let's go to an F-sharp 1. See, that first time I played it, it didn't have the attack. Now it does. All right, so let's open up span and see what we got going on. We're at a F sharp 1. Okay, so I feel like some people think that this takes away some of the transient or some of the pop. Well, you could just easily bring that back in with a thing like an enveloper or enveloper. I don't know how to pronounce that, but there's the attack back in. And we're still at that F sharp 1. So it works. All you have to do is in that pitch shifting plugin, you need to change the settings. So by default, it'll be on preset. You need to change this to pitch tracking, turn the delay down as far as it will go, turn the crossfade down to 0, and you get some usable results. Just to double and triple check this, I'm going to open up battery, and we're going to detune this now to we'll do negative 14 again, just to see how this sounds in comparison with this kick that we just changed with the pitch shifter. So here is in battery, and now the sample. Sounds pretty darn similar to me. So there are 4 ways to tune your kicks. Just to recap, use a synthesizer type plugin like Sonic Academy Kick, where you just know what your kick is tuned to right off the bat. Second method, load the sample into a sample player like Battery or Kontakt once you know the actual pitch of the kick using a plugin like Voxengo Span. Third method, separate the kick sample into 2 separate tracks or even 3. Cut and boost certain frequencies to change the perceived pitch. It's kind of a guess and check action. Fourth method, if you have a good high quality pitch shifter and you're not going to change it too many semitones, like we're talking maybe 1 or 2 up or down, maybe 3 tops, you can get away with using that method as well. Again, you have to know the pitch of your kick first. All right, guys, if you have any questions or comments, let me know below. I'll get back to you as soon as I can. If you haven't checked out ADSRsounds.com, head on over there. Tons of cool things production related. As always, thank you so much for watching. I will see you next time.